Welcome back to the channel The Coin Empire, the place where hidden treasures, rare coins, and unbelievable pocket change stories come to life. And today we are diving into a fascinating story that has captured the imagination of collectors and treasure hunters around the world. A story about a seemingly ordinary coin that could actually be worth an astonishing $90 million. The mysterious and incredibly rare 2002 P5 cent coin, also known as a nickel produced at the United States Mint facility in Philadelphia, a coin that at first glance may appear to be nothing more than everyday pocket change, but under the right circumstances and with the right combination of minting mistakes and rare characteristics could become one of the most valuable coins ever discovered. And that possibility is exactly why collectors, coin enthusiasts, and everyday people continue searching their jars of spare change hoping to uncover this extraordinary rarity, because throughout history many coins have gained enormous value due to mint errors, unusual die varieties, or unexpected production anomalies that slipped past quality control and entered circulation unnoticed. And the 2002 P5 cent coin is particularly interesting because it belongs to the famous Jefferson nickel series, a design that has been produced in the United States since 1938 and features the portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his historic home Monticello on the reverse. And although millions of these nickels were produced in 2002, only an extremely small number could potentially contain rare errors that transform them from ordinary coins into priceless collector treasures. Which is why the idea of a 2002 P nickel being valued at $90 million may sound unbelievable at first, but becomes much more understandable when you explore the types of minting mistakes and unusual features that can occur during the coin production process. Because coin production is a highly technical operation involving massive presses, carefully engraved dies, metal planchets, and precise alignment of components. And when something goes wrong during this process, it can create dramatic errors that collectors actively search for. One of the most famous possibilities for a coin like the 2002 P nickel is a major double die error where the design elements such as the lettering, date, or Jefferson's portrait appear duplicated due to misalignment during die creation, and if such an error were discovered with extremely strong doubling across the entire design, it could instantly attract enormous attention in the numismatic world because doubled dies are among the most sought-after error varieties in American coinage history. Another possibility that could drive the value sky high is an off-metal strike where the nickel is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another coin denomination. Imagine a 2002 P nickel struck on a copper cent planchet, or even a silver dime planchet. Such dramatic mismatches between design and metal composition are extremely rare and can turn a common coin into an extraordinary collectible. Collectors also look for dramatic off-center strikes where the coin design is partially missing because the planchet was not positioned correctly when the press struck the coin. And the more dramatic the misalignment, the more visually striking and valuable the coin becomes, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible. And speaking of mint marks, the letter P beneath the year on the 2002 nickel indicates that the coin was struck in Philadelphia, one of the oldest and most historically significant minting facilities in the United States, and coins produced there have occasionally displayed unusual varieties that become legendary among collectors. Another fascinating possibility that could push the value of a 2002 P nickel toward unimaginable levels is a wrong planchet error involving experimental metal compositions, because sometimes, during transitions in coin production, the mint tests new metal alloys and occasionally those experimental planchets accidentally enter the regular production line, creating coins that technically should not exist. And when such pieces are discovered, they often become the centerpiece of major coin auctions and museum collections. Yet another type of error that collectors dream of discovering is a broad strike where the coin expands beyond its normal size because the retaining collar that normally shapes the coin fails to engage during the strike, producing a coin that looks stretched and unusually wide with soft edges and distorted details. These types of errors are visually dramatic and instantly recognizable to experts, and in extremely rare circumstances a coin could display multiple errors at once. For example, a doubled die combined with an off-center strike, or a wrong metal planchet combined with a broad strike. And when several rare characteristics appear together on the same coin, the result can be a once-in-a-generation discovery that sends shockwaves through the collecting community. But the story does not end with minting errors alone, because condition also plays a crucial role in determining value. Coins that remain in pristine, uncirculated condition with sharp details and original mint luster are far more desirable than coins that have been worn down by years of circulation. And if a unique error coin from 2002 were discovered in flawless condition, the value could increase dramatically because collectors compete fiercely for the finest known examples of rare coins. Another factor that could contribute to such an extraordinary valuation is provenance, which refers to the documented ownership history of a coin. And when a rare coin has an interesting or prestigious background, such as being discovered in a historic collection or authenticated by major grading services, it becomes even more appealing to collectors and investors. The excitement surrounding coins like the 2002 nickel also comes from the fact that rare discoveries sometimes happen completely by accident when someone searches through spare change, coin rolls from the bank, or old jars of coins stored away for decades. Stories circulate constantly about individuals who unknowingly possess rare coins worth thousands, or even millions, until an expert examined them closely. And this possibility fuels the treasure hunt mentality among collectors who carefully inspect every coin they encounter, looking for unusual features such as missing letters, misaligned designs, clipped planchets, die cracks, or dramatic doubling. And in the case of the 2002 nickel, the design itself offers several areas where such errors might appear, including the portrait of Jefferson, the inscriptions along the rim, and the image of Monticello on the reverse. Sometimes subtle changes in the die during production can create unique varieties that only trained eyes can detect, while other times the errors are so dramatic that they are immediately obvious even to casual observers. And the reason these coins can reach astonishing values is simple supply and demand. When only one or two examples of a spectacular error exist, collectors around the world compete intensely to own them, pushing prices to unimaginable levels during auctions and private sales. And while $90 million represents the extreme upper end of what collectors might dream about, the numismatic market has repeatedly demonstrated that rarity, historical significance, and collector demand can combine to produce record-breaking prices, making it entirely possible that a truly unique example could one day command an extraordinary valuation, which is why it is always worth taking a closer look at the coins in your pocket, because what appears ordinary at first glance might actually contain a hidden story from the minting process. A story of mechanical mishaps, die misalignments, experimental metals, or production anomalies that slipped into circulation unnoticed. And if such a coin were to surface today, it would immediately capture the attention of collectors, historians, and investors across the world, turning a humble 5-cent coin into one of the most talked about discoveries in modern coin collecting. So the next time you come across a 2002 nickel, remember that every coin has a story, and sometimes those stories involve incredible rarity and unbelievable value. And that is why collectors everywhere continue searching, examining, and preserving coins, because the next legendary discovery could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to notice the tiny details that transform ordinary pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Next, 1997 5-cent coin. Today we are diving into the fascinating story of a coin that most people would never imagine could hold an astonishing value, the mysterious 1997 5-cent coin. A coin that looks ordinary at first glance, but under the right circumstances and with the right combination of rare minting errors, unusual characteristics, and collector demand could potentially reach an incredible value of $88 million. And this story begins with the famous American coin known as the Jefferson nickel, a coin design that has been circulating in the United States since 1938 and features the portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the front and the historic building Monticello on the reverse, a design created to honor the third President of the United States and his architectural masterpiece that has become one of the most recognizable images in American coinage. And the specific nickel we are discussing today was struck in 1997 at the facility operated by the United States Mint located in Denver, which is why the coin carries the small letter D mint mark next to the year, indicating its place of origin. And although hundreds of millions of nickels were produced that year and most of them remain worth only 5 cents, the world of coin collecting has repeatedly shown that extraordinary errors and rare production mistakes can transform an ordinary coin into something incredibly valuable. sometimes worth thousands, sometimes millions, and in the most extreme and legendary cases, potentially worth tens of millions of dollars when rarity, condition, and collector demand align perfectly. And this is where the story of the 1997 D nickel becomes truly fascinating, because several types of minting anomalies could theoretically create a coin so rare that collectors across the world would compete fiercely to own it, driving its value into astonishing territory. And to understand how this could happen, we must first explore the minting process itself, because every coin begins its life as a blank metal disc known as a planchet, which is fed into a powerful press where engraved steel dies strike the design onto the metal with enormous pressure, creating the detailed images and lettering that we see on coins. And while this process is highly precise, it is not immune to mistakes, and when something goes wrong, the result can be a mint error that collectors actively search for. One of the most famous and valuable types of mint errors is the doubled die variety, where the die used to strike the coin receives a misaligned impression during its creation, causing elements of the design to appear doubled on every coin it produces. And if a dramatic doubled die were discovered on a 1997 D nickel showing clear duplication in the date, the word Liberty, or the features of Jefferson's portrait, it would instantly become a major discovery in the numismatic community. Because strong double dies are rare and visually striking, and when they occur on modern coins, they often attract enormous attention from collectors and grading services. Another possibility that could make a 1997 D nickel extraordinarily valuable is an off-metal strike where the coin is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a nickel design appearing on a copper cent planchet, or even on a silver dime planchet. Such a mismatch between design and metal composition is extremely rare because the mint carefully separates planchets for each denomination. Yet, history has shown that mistakes occasionally slip through the system, and when they do, the resulting coins become highly prized by collectors who specialize in mint errors, because these coins represent unusual moments when the minting process produced something that technically should not exist. Another dramatic possibility is an off-center strike where the coin was not positioned correctly in the press and the design appears partially missing or shifted toward one side of the coin, and the more dramatic the misalignment, the more visually impressive the coin becomes, especially if the date and mint mark remain visible, because that allows collectors to identify the coin while still appreciating the unusual appearance of the strike. Broad strike errors are another type of minting anomaly that can increase a coin's value dramatically. And this happens when the retaining collar that normally surrounds the coin during striking fails to engage, allowing the metal to spread outward and creating a coin that is wider than normal with smooth edges instead of the typical raised rim. And when collectors encounter a broad-struck nickel, they immediately recognize that something unusual happened during the minting process, making the coin far more interesting than a normal example. Yet another possibility that could contribute to the legendary value of a 1997 D nickel is a wrong planchet error involving experimental or transitional metal compositions, because occasionally the mint experiments with different alloys or uses leftover planchets from previous production runs, and if one of these unusual planchets were accidentally struck with the 1997 D nickel design, the resulting coin would be extremely rare, especially if it contained a metal composition that differs dramatically from the standard copper-nickel alloy used for nickels. Collectors are also fascinated by die cracks and die breaks, which occur when the steel dies used to strike coins begin to fracture after repeated use, sometimes creating raised lines or even large blobs of metal on the coin known as cut errors. And although minor die cracks are relatively common, a massive die break that dramatically alters the appearance of the design could create a one-of-a-kind coin that collectors would eagerly pursue. Another intriguing possibility involves clipped planchets where a portion of the metal blank was missing before the coin was struck, resulting in a coin with a curved or straight missing section along its edge. And while clipped coins are known in many denominations, a large dramatic clip combined with other unusual characteristics on a 1997 D nickel could significantly increase its desirability among collectors. Misaligned dies can also produce coins with partial designs or rotated images where the front and back of the coin are not properly aligned. And these types of errors are particularly interesting because they reveal mechanical issues that occurred during the minting process, Sometimes coins are struck multiple times by the press, creating overlapping images or ghost-like impressions that make the design look distorted and unusual. And if such a multiple strike error occurred on a 1997 D nickel, it could create a coin that looks almost like a work of abstract art, instantly attracting the attention of collectors and historians who study minting technology. But beyond the physical errors themselves, the condition of the coin plays an enormous role in determining its value, because coins that remain in pristine mint state condition with sharp details and original luster are far more valuable than coins that have been worn down through years of circulation. And if a unique error coin from 1997 were discovered in near perfect condition, it would likely be graded by professional coin grading services and placed in a protective holder that verifies its authenticity and condition, which in turn increases buyer confidence and auction interest. Provenance can also influence the value of rare coins, because a coin that has an interesting history of ownership or was discovered in a famous collection often gains additional prestige among collectors. Sometimes coins that initially appear ordinary later become famous when experts identify previously unknown varieties or errors that were overlooked for years. And this is one of the reasons why coin enthusiasts carefully examine every detail of their coins using magnifying glasses and microscopes, looking for subtle differences in lettering, spacing, or design elements that might indicate a rare variety. The excitement surrounding coins like the 1997 D nickel also comes from the fact that extraordinary discoveries sometimes happen in the most ordinary places, such as pocket change, coin jars, or bank rolls. There are countless stories of collectors who purchased rolls of coins from banks and later discovered rare error coins hidden among them. And these stories fuel the dream that anyone could potentially find a valuable coin without even realizing it at first, which is why so many people enjoy searching through their change hoping to uncover a hidden treasure. The possibility of a coin reaching an $88 million valuation may sound unbelievable, but the numismatic market has repeatedly shown that rarity and demand can drive prices far beyond what most people expect, especially when a coin represents a unique combination of historical significance, minting anomaly, and exceptional preservation. And if a 1997 D nickel were discovered displaying a spectacular combination of errors such as a dramatic double die, an off-metal strike, and pristine condition, it could easily become one of the most talked about coins in modern collecting history, attracting attention from collectors, museums, and investors around the world. Auctions featuring rare coins often create intense competition among bidders who are eager to own a piece of history. Next, 2002 D5 cent coin. Today we are exploring the incredible mystery of the 2002 D5 cent coin, a small and seemingly ordinary coin that under the right circumstances could be worth an astonishing $84 million because of rare minting errors, unusual production mistakes, and extremely unlikely combinations of characteristics that collectors around the world search for every single day. And while it may sound unbelievable that a simple nickel could reach such a massive value, the history of coin collecting has repeatedly shown that rare errors and unique circumstances can turn everyday coins into priceless treasures. And the coin at the center of today's story belongs to the famous American coin series known as the Jefferson nickel, which has been produced in the United States since 1938 and features the portrait of the third President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, on the obverse side and the historic home Monticello on the reverse. And the particular nickel we are discussing carries the small letter D mint mark, indicating it was produced at the United States Mint facility located in Denver, a mint that has produced billions of coins for circulation throughout the United States. And although millions upon millions of 2002 D nickels were struck that year, the fascinating reality of coin production is that even the most carefully controlled manufacturing process can occasionally produce mistakes. And those mistakes are exactly what coin collectors search for, because mint errors transform ordinary coins into rare pieces of numismatic history, and understanding how a 2002 D nickel could reach a value of $84 million begins with understanding the minting process itself, because every coin starts as a blank metal disc called a planchet, which is cut from long sheets of metal and carefully prepared before being fed into a high-pressure coining press. Inside that press, two engraved steel dies strike the design onto the metal with enormous force, imprinting the portrait, lettering, and details onto the coin, And although this process is extremely precise, it is not completely immune to mechanical issues or human error. And when something unusual happens during the striking process, the result can be a mint error that collectors value far beyond the coin's face value. One of the most famous types of minting mistakes that could affect a 2002D nickel is the double die error, which occurs during the creation of the die itself, when the design is impressed more than once in slightly different positions, causing certain elements of the coin, such as the date, the word liberty, or parts of Jefferson's portrait, to appear doubled or shadowed. And when strong doubling appears clearly visible without magnification, collectors become extremely interested because dramatic doubled dies are rare and historically significant, especially when they occur on modern coins where minting technology is highly advanced and errors are less common than they were decades ago. Another possibility that could transform a 2002D nickel into an extremely valuable coin is an off-metal strike where the nickel design is accidentally struck onto a planchet intended for another denomination, for example a copper cent planchet, or even a dime planchet. Such an event would create a coin with the design of a nickel but the size, color, or metal composition of a completely different coin, and because the mint separates planchets very carefully, such errors are incredibly rare, which is exactly why collectors prize them so highly. Another dramatic minting mistake that could increase the value of a 2002D nickel is an off-center strike where the blank planchet was not properly positioned between the dies when the coin was struck, resulting in a design that appears shifted toward one side of the coin, leaving a blank crescent-shaped area on the opposite side. And the more dramatic the shift, the more visually interesting the coin becomes, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible, because those features allow collectors to clearly identify the coin while still appreciating the unusual strike pattern. Broad strike errors are another fascinating possibility where the retaining collar that normally surrounds the coin during striking fails to engage, allowing the metal to spread outward under pressure and creating a coin that is larger than normal with a flattened rim and unusual shape. These coins immediately stand out because they look different from normal coins, and collectors enjoy owning pieces that clearly demonstrate how the minting process can occasionally malfunction. Another rare situation that could contribute to the extraordinary value of a 2002D nickel involves wrong planchet errors where the coin is struck on leftover or experimental metal blanks that were never intended for that denomination. Sometimes the mint experiments with different alloys or metal mixtures, and if one of those experimental planchets accidentally enters the regular production line, the resulting coin could be extremely rare, and collectors value these coins not only for their rarity but also because they represent unusual moments in mint history when the normal procedures briefly failed. Die cracks and die breaks also play an important role in the world of error coins because the steel dies used to strike coins endure enormous pressure and repeated use, which can eventually cause them to develop small fractures. When those fractures appear on the coin, they create raised lines or unusual shapes that collectors call die cracks or cut errors. And while small cracks are fairly common, a large dramatic die break that significantly alters the design could create a coin that collectors find highly desirable. Clipped planchet errors are another possibility where a portion of the metal blank was missing before the coin was struck, resulting in a coin with a curved or straight missing section along its edge. And although clipped coins exist in many denominations, a large and visually striking clip combined with other unusual characteristics on a 2002D nickel could significantly increase its appeal among collectors who specialize in mint errors. Misaligned dies are another type of error that could create unusual coins where the obverse and reverse designs are not properly aligned with each other, causing the images to appear rotated when the coin is flipped, and sometimes coins can even be struck multiple times by the press, creating overlapping images that look distorted or ghost-like, which can produce incredibly unusual-looking coins that stand out immediately to anyone examining them. Another fascinating possibility involves coins struck on damaged or defective planchets, which might show unusual textures, cracks, or laminations in the metal. And these types of errors tell the story of what happened to the metal before the coin was even struck. But beyond the errors themselves, the condition of the coin plays a major role in determining its value, because coins that remain in pristine, uncirculated condition with full mint luster and sharp details are far more desirable than coins that have been worn down by years of circulation. If a unique 2002D nickel with a spectacular error were discovered in near perfect condition, it would likely be submitted to professional grading services where experts would authenticate the coin and assign it a grade that reflects its preservation and high grade. Coins often command much higher prices at auction because collectors compete intensely for the best known examples of rare varieties. Provenance also plays a role in the value of rare coins because a coin that comes from a famous collection or has a documented history of ownership can become even more desirable to collectors who appreciate the historical journey of each piece. The excitement surrounding coins like the 2002D nickel comes from the fact that incredible discoveries sometimes happen completely by accident when someone searches through their spare change, coin jars, or rolls of coins from the bank. Many collectors enjoy the thrill of examining every coin closely using magnifying glasses or microscopes, looking for subtle differences in lettering, spacing, or design elements that might reveal a hidden variety or error. And there have been numerous stories of people discovering rare coins worth thousands, or even millions simply because they decided to take a closer look at what others considered ordinary change. The possibility of a nickel reaching an $84 million valuation might sound unbelievable, but the world of rare coins has repeatedly demonstrated that when rarity, historical interest, and collector demand come together, the results can be astonishing. Auctions featuring unique coins often attract collectors and investors from around the world who are willing to pay enormous amounts for the opportunity to own something truly rare, and when multiple determined bidders compete for the same coin, the final price can climb far beyond expectations because each collector understands that the chance to own such a unique piece may never come again, and that competitive excitement is exactly what makes coin collecting such a fascinating hobby, because every coin has the potential to hold a hidden story from the minting process, a story involving mechanical mishaps, die misalignments, experimental metals, or unexpected production anomalies that slipped past quality control and entered circulation unnoticed. Last 2013 P5 cent coin. Today we are diving into one of the most fascinating possibilities in the world of modern coin collecting, the mysterious 2013 P5 cent coin that, under the right circumstances and with the right combination of minting errors, rare varieties, and extraordinary preservation, could potentially reach an unbelievable value of $80 million. And while that number may sound shocking at first, the history of coin collecting has shown time and again that the smallest mistakes made during the coin minting process can transform a coin worth only a few cents into a priceless treasure sought after by collectors around the world. And the coin at the center of this discussion belongs to the long-running American coin series known as the Jefferson nickel, a coin that has been part of everyday commerce in the United States since 1938. And which carries on its obverse the portrait of the third President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, while the reverse features the famous historic Estate Monticello, a building designed by Jefferson himself and recognized as one of the most iconic architectural landmarks in American history. And the particular coin we are focusing on today carries the letter P mint mark, meaning it was produced at the United States Mint facility located in Philadelphia, one of the oldest and most historically significant minting locations in the United States, where billions of coins have been produced for circulation over the decades. And although millions upon millions of 2013 P nickels were struck for everyday use, the fascinating reality of coin production is that even with modern technology, the minting process is not completely immune to unexpected mistakes. And those mistakes are exactly what transform ordinary coins into rare collectibles that can command enormous prices in the numismatic marketplace. Because collectors are constantly searching for coins that display unusual characteristics created by mechanical malfunctions, die preparation issues, metal planchet irregularities, or alignment problems during the striking process, and understanding how a 2013 P nickel could potentially reach an $80 million valuation begins with understanding how coins are made. Because every coin begins its life as a blank metal disc known as a planchet, which is punched out from large sheets of metal and then carefully prepared before being fed into powerful coining presses where engraved steel dies strike the design onto the metal with immense pressure, imprinting the portrait, inscriptions, and architectural details that define the coin's appearance. And although the equipment used by the mint is incredibly precise and carefully monitored, it operates at extremely high speeds, producing thousands of coins per minute, which means that occasional errors can still occur when a die shifts slightly, when a planchet enters the press incorrectly, or when the metal blank itself contains a defect. And one of the most famous and valuable types of minting errors that collectors hope to find on coins like the 2013 nickel is the double die error, which occurs during the process of creating the die when the design is impressed more than once in slightly different positions, causing elements of the coin such as the date, lettering, or parts of Jefferson's portrait to appear doubled or shadowed. And when strong doubling is visible without magnification, collectors become extremely excited because dramatic doubled dies are rare and historically important, especially on modern coins where strict quality control makes such errors less common than they once were. Another fascinating possibility that could dramatically increase the value of a 2013 nickel is an off-metal strike where the coin is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination. Imagine discovering a nickel design stamped onto a copper cent planchet, or even onto a smaller silver-colored dime planchet. Such a mismatch between design and metal composition would immediately attract attention because the mint carefully separates planchets by denomination, and only a very small number of these mistakes ever escape into circulation, which is why collectors are willing to pay significant premiums for such unusual pieces. Another type of minting error that could transform a 2013 nickel into a highly valuable coin is an off-center strike, which occurs when the metal planchet is not properly aligned between the dies when the coin is struck, resulting in the design being shifted toward one side of the coin, leaving a blank crescent-shaped area on the opposite side. And the more dramatic the shift, the more visually striking the coin becomes, especially if the date and mint mark remain visible, because those features confirm the coin's identity while still showcasing the unusual strike. Broad strike errors also capture the attention of collectors because they occur when the retaining collar that normally surrounds the coin during striking fails to engage, allowing the metal to spread outward under pressure, creating a coin that is wider than normal with smooth edges and an unusual appearance. These coins stand out immediately when compared with normal examples and provide a fascinating glimpse into how the minting machinery operates when something goes wrong. Clipped planchet errors are another possibility, where the metal blank used to create the coin was missing a portion before the strike, resulting in a coin with a curved or straight section cut away from its edge. And when such an error occurs on a modern nickel, it instantly becomes more interesting to collectors, especially if the clip is large and dramatic enough to significantly alter the coin's appearance. Die cracks and die breaks also play an important role in the world of error coins because the steel dies used in coin production are subjected to enormous pressure and repeated use, which can eventually cause them to develop fractures. And when those fractures appear on the coins they produce, they create raised lines or unusual shapes that collectors identify as die cracks or cut errors. And while small cracks are relatively common, a large and dramatic die break that alters a major part of the design could create a coin that collectors find extremely desirable. Another fascinating possibility involves coins that are struck multiple times by the press, creating overlapping or distorted images that appear almost like ghost impressions of the design. And such coins often look so unusual that they immediately capture the attention of anyone examining them closely. Misaligned dies can also produce coins where the obverse and reverse designs are rotated relative to each other, meaning that when the coin is flipped, the images do not line up in the expected orientation. And while slight rotation is sometimes seen, dramatic misalignment can create rare varieties that collectors enjoy discovering and preserving. There are also situations where coins are struck on defective or damaged planchets, which may contain cracks, laminations, or unusual textures in the metal itself, and these imperfections become permanently embedded in the coin during the striking process, telling a story about the condition of the metal before the coin was even created. But beyond the presence of mint errors, another factor that plays a huge role in determining the value of a coin is its condition, because coins that remain in pristine, uncirculated condition with sharp details and original mint luster are far more valuable than coins that have been worn down through years of circulation. And if a unique error coin from 2013 were discovered in near-perfect condition, it would likely be submitted to professional grading services where experts would carefully examine it under magnification to authenticate the error and assign it a grade reflecting its level of preservation. and coins that receive extremely high grades often command dramatic prices at auctions because collectors compete fiercely for the best known examples of rare varieties. Provenance can also increase the desirability of a coin because when a coin has a documented ownership history or was discovered in a famous collection, it gains an additional layer of prestige that collectors appreciate. The excitement surrounding coins like the 2013 nickel comes from the fact that incredible discoveries sometimes happen in the most ordinary places, such as pocket change, coin jars, old piggy banks, or rolls of coins obtained from banks. Many collectors spend hours searching through coins using magnifying glasses and careful observation, hoping to spot a small detail that others might overlook, such as unusual spacing in the lettering or subtle doubling in the design elements. And there have been numerous stories throughout numismatic history where ordinary individuals discovered rare coins worth significant amounts simply because they decided to examine their change more closely. And while the idea of a nickel reaching a value of $80 million may sound unbelievable, it represents the extreme potential that collectors imagine when they dream about discovering a unique coin with extraordinary characteristics. Because the coin market has repeatedly demonstrated that rarity combined with collector demand can push prices far beyond what most people expect. Especially when a coin represents a unique moment in the history of minting technology or displays a combination of errors that has never been seen before. Auctions for rare coins often attract collectors and investors from around the world, and when several determined bidders compete for the same piece, the final price can rise dramatically because each participant